History says shelling out $121 million to an aging star is ludicrous. This move is crazy, bringing Butler to the Bay Area. It's so crazy, it just may work.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
There's not many defenses in the world that can stop him.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? We appreciate you for making Locked On Warriors a part of your day. Locked On Warriors is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. Also, a good way to hang out with us is on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. The thumbs up are free. If you are a Warriors fan or just a fan of the NBA, show appreciation for content creators and hit that thumbs up button. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check us out on LockedOnDaily.com. You enter your email and you get a free Warriors newsletter delivered to you free, I may mention, again, every single day. I'm the host of the show. My name's Charlie Walter. My credentials, formerly at 95.7 The Game, talk show host at the flagship station where you can hear the Golden State Warriors on the radio. That is in the Bay Area. Also spent 3 seasons and covered an NBA championship in 21-22 for CBS News Bay Area. You know the letters is KPIX. 3 major questions we're answering on the show today. 1, remember in the offseason when Joe Lacob said there's no windows, no title windows, it's just every season's the new team? Liar. A 2.5-year window has been created. 100%. If you can't see it, I don't know what to tell you. What's the Warriors' next move going to be if this Jimmy Butler edition is not enough? If they need one more piece to get there, how are they going to do it? What are their options? We'll debate. Giving the bag to an aging star. How often does this work? Let's compare to some other aging stars from the past and see which ones worked out, which didn't. Locker room dynamics with Draymond Green. 2 fiery guys, and I've heard a lot from the Twitter world and the internet crowd. Who is going to punch who first? Kevon Looney reassured us that dogs don't fight one another. That's not what they do. They go after the cats. But let's start with something extremely important. Jimmy Butler's known to get going in the playoffs, and the Warriors are going to need that playoff edge from day one because they're 500 again. And I don't know about playing Jimmy, and I don't want to find out if playing Jimmy is something that should excite us. But there was 3 minutes left in the game against the Utah Jazz in the fourth quarter. 3 minutes to go in the game. Warriors were up 122-111, and the final score read Jazz, who are not good whatsoever, 12 wins on the season. Jazz 131, Warriors 128. 3 minutes to go in the game, and they scored, the Warriors did, 6 points throughout the rest of the contest. It's been par for the course this season. We've seen it way too much, and it's part of the reason why they went after Jimmy buckets. This team has been brutal with the late leads, and the killer mentality of stepping on teams' throats is something that is needed. It's an issue, and that is where Jimmy Butler fits in. In the game, Brandon Bajimski had 29. He's been great since returning from injury. Steph Curry had 32, but it took him 31 shots to get there. There were terrible turnovers down the stretch. Burn the film. I don't have a lighter. Burn the film and move on. The Warriors have to move on quick, and they had to move on quick in this game because they went into it thinking that Andrew Wiggins was a part of the team, and they were going to be trying to take down the Jazz with Andrew Wiggins. Beforehand, they probably heard the rumblings of Kevin Durant. It's been an interesting 48 hours, to say the least. The original plan was Kevin Durant. We all know this at this point, a reunion. Curry talked to KD in the last week. KD said, hell nah. The front office underestimated how out KD was on a potential reunion. They said, maybe we can court him here. No, wasn't going to happen. The deal was in place, though, that would have sent Durant to Golden State, Butler to Phoenix, and Wiggins to Miami. But Durant stepped in, shut it down, John Taffer style. So the Warriors had to move quick. And that is where they were getting ready for the game against Utah. Reporters were kicked out of the locker room. The team was called in, and Steve Kerr had to tell 4 Warriors, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and Lindy Waters, plus Andrew Wiggins, that they were no longer Warriors. Kevon Looney said it was one of the most emotional meetings he's been a part of in the NBA, and he's had plenty of them as a Warrior over the years, saying goodbyes. You could tell that Kerr was eaten up in the post-game presser, to say the least. Kevon Looney said it was one of the most emotional meetings he's ever been a part of as a Golden State Warrior. And you could tell that Steve Kerr was also struggling with the news, in addition to losing to the Jazz. But you could just tell from his demeanor after the game that he really enjoyed coaching Andrew Wiggins. And just like the rest of us, he doesn't necessarily know what to expect. Here was his final farewell to Andrew.
You know, Wiggs is one of my favorite players I've ever coached. Just a beautiful soul, just a wonderful human being. And, you know, we don't hang that banner in 22 without him. Everything he brings every single day, the laughter, the smile, the joy, just a wonderful human being. And so I'm going to miss him.
I think Kerr knows that he just went from one of the easiest players, probably all time, to coach. Very easygoing Andrew Wiggins to Jimmy Butler, who incredible player. What a talent. Straight up assassin, a killer. You could say so many things about Jimmy Butler. One word that is never associated with him is easy, and specifically easy to coach. Mike Dunleavy is the one that made this all happen in the front office. It was the Lakers, and it was Dunleavy who got this thing done. Sounds like Curry probably greenlighted it. I'm sure Draymond and Kerr, the important figures, they greenlighted it. But in terms of them knowing it was going to happen when it happened, they were getting ready for a basketball game. It was Dunleavy spearheading this thing, a former teammate of Butler with the Bulls back in the day. This is a Mike move. It's a front office move. So how will it help? That's the big question that everyone wants to know. I said last night that I didn't necessarily like the move because it feels lateral. Wiggins is just as good. Let me modify that take. Prime Jimmy Butler is better than prime Andrew Wiggins, no doubt about it. But with a contract extension that now keeps Butler until he's 37 years old, how much prime do we have left of Jimmy Buckets? That is the biggest question that you have to factor in, because we know that Andrew Wiggins is still in his prime. So when you look at that factor and tease ahead to next year and what Butler's going to look like next year, and just the risk that's associated with injuries as you get older, that is a real thing. We all know this about the human body. How much prime do we have left of Jimmy Butler? That is gamble number one. But remember what I've been saying on a lot of these shows. Fortune favors the bold, and this is an audacious move, no doubt about it. Anyone that tuned into the Heat NBA Finals run after good regular seasons, but regular seasons to where if you're filling out an NBA playoff bracket, you're not taking Miami with a fighter's chance. Jimmy Butler was that type of guy that stepped up his game to the point where all of a sudden you thought Miami had a chance to win the game. Many times he did it. There was a sample size to choose from. It's because Jimmy Butler is a dog. And I said on one of these shows, we need more dogs.
We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.
This guy is that. And Andrew Wiggins has been a lot of things for the Warriors, but a reliable, put the ball in his hands with 10 seconds left, 30 seconds left, have him make a play to win you the game. That was never really a part of his package, or at least one that we were showcased often. And a lot of times it led to Steph hero ball down the stretch because there was not enough help. We've been asking for more Steph Curry help. Jimmy gives you an edge there. 26, 6, and 6 is what Butler averaged in the 2023 playoffs on 40 minutes per. He carried the Heat to the NBA Finals. He had 56 and 42 in back-to-back wins over the Bucks that season. He had 43 times in the 2022 playoff run and averaged 27 throughout that postseason. Playoff Jimmy, big game Jimmy, it is real. But the Warriors right now, in their situation, at least this year, need everyday Jimmy as soon as he steps on the court. Age is obviously a factor in this, and everything we've talked about that Butler did, that's in the past, right? Numbers wise this season, he hasn't been great. Let's attribute that to the fact that he didn't care. He wanted to get out of Miami. That does matter. From time to time, Butler still has it in him. 35, 19, and 10. 35 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists. That was a stat line from Jimmy Butler in a win over Detroit this season. With that being said, for anyone out there that has said the Warriors need to make a gamble, they need to make a swing, this thing has gotten too stale, let's go all in for Curry. You got your wish here because this was the move to do that. It's a gamble that playoff Jimmy Buckets is not past time. He's not washed away on the shores of South Beach, and that a few more golden years can be capitalized when it matters most. But it feels like the Warriors still may need more. And they're not going to be getting it through a deadline deal. It does not sound like. This is from Chris Haynes. Said the Golden State Warriors are done with trades, sources say, but look for them to be aggressive in the buyout market. Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons to the Warriors? But first, I want to get to a reason for optimism and pessimism at the same time in the same segment. Jimmy's contract extension. Why I slept on it and feel slightly better, but at the same time, acknowledge that this could be a disaster. That is ahead on the Locked On Warriors.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing does involve risk. Rates subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Back to the show, everyone.
They like me here. I like to be here.
If you were skeptical about Jimmy not wanting to be here, because the reports were Phoenix was his wish, and he only wanted to go to Phoenix. But the fact that he accepted the extension, it's good news. We know one thing about Butler. He is a competitor, and if you give him everything he needs to be happy, and I would hope that Hall of Famers, a Hall of Fame coach, $121 million in one of the most valuable franchises in sports, go live in a place like Tiburon, get yourself a boat, weather is perfect. JB, not many reasons to think you're going to be unhappy in San Francisco. Draymond Green, however, is a name that gets brought up as a potential issue, and I think we all know why. He's had his issues with other players in the past, and we'll discuss that in just a moment. But Steph Curry thinks they are going to get a hungry Jimmy Butler, which is a scary Jimmy Butler. He said, quote, him signing an extension is big, knowing he's committed for this next little run. I know there's a lot of drama down there in Miami. Who really knows what the story is? But we expect to have a motivated, committed Jimmy. Still from Curry. I could put myself in his shoes. He's been away from the game for a minute. He's been frustrated for whatever reason. When you get into a situation that's a fresh start, it establishes expectations that we're all used to, and that is we need to win. We all thrive off that energy. Energy. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean there won't be challenges. So back to my point to last night where I said I'm skeptical about this trade. And the big reason why, I can't play it, unfortunately, due to copyright, but just imagine the Jurassic Park music in your head right now. Basketball age, these guys are dinosaurs. They're dinosaurs with tons of tread on the tires. History says it's not going to work. History tends to repeat itself. This one just may work. Let me get into that. First of all, LeBron, KD, Steph Curry, even to an extent, James Harden, some of these new age players have made us think that there's a magic elixir. There's a fountain of youth, the holy grail. Sports medicine and science has gotten to the point where it allows 36-year-olds to still dominate the game, which has always been a young man's sport. But find me examples aside from those four in the last 20 years. Throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to be proven wrong. Find me an example. I'm just thinking of the great players in my life over the age of 30. Let's start with Kobe Bryant. At age 34, was all NBA, and Father Time got him. Played 41 total games the next 2 seasons, retired at age 37. 37 is going to be the last year of Jimmy Butler's contract when he is receiving close to $60 million. It's a lot of money to be giving someone that's retired. But again, different player. But OKC brought in Carmelo for a little push. He was 33 at the time. Father Time over Anthony. Father Time wins the battle over Carmelo. Allen Iverson was out of the league at this age after Father Time got him. Kevin Garnett and Pierce were sent to Brooklyn in the same deal for just a smorgasbord of draft picks that proved to be one of the dumbest deals in the world. Even if this does go awry, it'll never be as bad as that. We can guarantee that. But that was around this age where Pierce and Garnett, went to Brooklyn, and Father Time got them. Vince Carter, a solid 6th man at 35. He was not a $50 million core piece. Paul George is 34 right now. He appears to be slowing down. James Harden, like I said, he's proof that you can still be effective at 35. But history says it is a massive gamble. For those saying Jimmy is built different, that is the hope. And it's certainly going to be exciting to watch. I'll tell you this much about Jimmy Butler. If there is one guy that I would kind of believe has that mentality to where he can still affect the game in multiple different ways, attacking the glass, attacking the basket, off the dribble, occasionally knocking down threes, getting to the free throw line, guarding the best player on the other team, point of attack defense, stealing at the right time, blocking shots that changes momentum. If there's any player that can do that at 37, Jimmy Butler would be one of those guys because he's got a little crazy in him. And I mean that in the most endearing way possible. Like someone that's so insane with his workout regimen and just training and mentality alone to where if injuries don't get him, I think he can still be extremely effective at that age. That is the hope. We will see. We are going to watch. But it does jam up Golden State's future books, which is scary. There's Jonathan Kuminga, who is entering the restricted free agency this offseason. That is a huge factor that we're going to have to keep our eyes on. How are the Warriors going to navigate that? How are they going to find the money to pay Jonathan Kuminga? That is obviously a topic of conversation. But what the Warriors needed, they may have gotten. They needed someone who could get a bucket down the stretch, who could play point with the second unit, guard the best wing on the other team, run the offense with 10 seconds left while Curry runs around like crazy off screens trying to get open. He can change momentum with a clutch block or a steal. He plays hard, and his strongest fans swear Jimmy Butler is not washed. But it's clearly a 3 playoff window right now. And the question now becomes, you're already taking the gamble on Jimmy. There's only so many ways that you can get better. If this team's not good enough, you only can do a couple of things to enhance the roster. Run through those things. Trading future draft picks. No thanks. You're already taking a gamble on Jimmy. Keep those unprotected, will you? Those may be important down the road. The second, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, and it's Moses Moody as trade chips in the offseason. Those 2 things, picks, trade chips, those are the only ways that you can get better. So if they're not close this season, let's say the Miami Heat of last year, bowed out in the first round of the playoffs, what would the plan be from there? If they are not even close, kind of know what you have entering next season, then how do you enhance your roster committed to a 2.5 or 3 playoff window? Let's put it that way. That's the underlying story. finishing out the season and entering next season, 3-year window. As for the issues surrounding Jimmy Butler's locker room presence, I wanted a reassuring voice to tell me it's going to be okay. That voice of reason, Kevon Looney. I believe Kevon when he says Draymond and Jimmy is going to work. His full comments are coming up next.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully, we'll never find out.
Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals. You don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now. My favorite thing, I say it on every show, and it's real. It is the seat view feature. You can get a full panoramic from your seat before you buy it. That is reassuring. In any venue, especially places you've never been to, you need that feature, man. And the best part, it's covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. They will refund 110% of the difference if you find a better deal somewhere else. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back to the show.
Who cares how I feel? It's about winning basketball games.
The memes were flowing like crazy of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green being teammates. Which player's going to fight who first? You know, all the good memes out there were thrown around on social media. It's a good scroll. Hopefully not a doom scroll. It's all said and done, but it is entertaining stuff. And there's a reason why it's been floated around. Hotheads, absolute hotheads. It's part of their aura. It's why people love them. Not fully why, but it's a part of why people love them. Now together, you get opposite players, one that facilitates and undeniably affects the game to the non-box score watchers that know the intricacies of the game. Those are the people that respect Draymond Green's game the most and how he changes a basketball contest. The other, you see it with your eyes every single play with the ball in his hands, how he can just take over, will a team to victory, which he's done time and time again. But both hotheads, man. Kevon Looney's not worried. And he's the vet that I trust. Like if we're playing a Warriors edition of Squid Games and we play that mingle game, you know what I'm talking about, where it spins and everyone's got to run to the door, I'm finding Kevon to lead me to safety. I don't care what the number is. 7, where's Kevon? I'm finding him. Actually, you know what would happen? We'd be the guys in the room after they pick 2, and Draymond would come in. He'd be player 1. He'd say, "Get out." But no, I'd go with Kevon. I value his words. The youngest seasoned vet in basketball history. It is so hard to believe sometimes that Kevon Looney is 28. A lot of it has to do with the way that he plays, also the way that he carries himself, just wise beyond his years. Anyways, I'm rambling. Looney had several conversations with Wiggins about Butler. Wiggins, obviously a teammate of Butler's in Minnesota, and swears by him, which I always thought was fascinating because and we heard from Iguodala a while back that the case, but the narrative for the longest time was that those two couldn't stand each other, right? But swears by him. Wiggins swears by Jimmy Butler. Quote, "We've had a lot of different personalities, a lot of different guys, and it usually works. From the guys I've talked to, the guys that played with him, Wiggs says he's a great guy. From a player's perspective, I've heard he's great. All the other stuff, the contract negotiations, you know how that goes. Team spins a narrative, media spins a narrative, player spins a narrative. I don't want to get into all that. I know he's a winner. And if he cares about winning, he can fit in easy here." Okay. Let's revisit that history real quick of Jimmy Butler and Andrew Wiggins. Let's not forget that wrinkle. It was 2018. It was an infamous practice, I guess, tirade, if you want to call it, where he led the third stringers to a scrimmage beatdown of Minnesota's starters. And during that scrimmage, Butler was throwing around expletives and said, they soft. He's throwing insults left and right in the direction of Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. That ended up leading to an exit interview with Rachel Nichols, where Butler ended up calling Wiggins the most God-gifted player on Minnesota's roster, before adding that Jimmy himself played the hardest, and the implication was that Wiggins didn't play hard enough. But Andre Iguodala actually said that Butler told him he had great things to say about Wiggins. So we already heard that Wiggins had great things to say about Butler. Andre said back in 21 that Wiggins had great things to say. Almost like the situation was just a fiery dude and a laid back guy, just not clicking real time on the floor with the way that they do business. Iggy also said in that interview, that piece, whatever it was, that Jimmy don't like anyone. Doesn't like anyone. How about Draymond Green? Will he like them? That's an important wrinkle of all this. Now, Green he got along with personalities like Boogie Cousins, Chris Paul, David West, some large personalities. Those guys are not Jimmy Butler. The guy's insane. And I say it in the most respectable use of the word. Like, I respect a person that is borderline insane on the basketball floor, to say the least. 2014, he was training in the offseason, and he didn't have internet or cable. While Kendrick Perkins was watching Breaking Bad Season 4 all summer, Jimmy Butler was in a wall squat that entire summer. This dude is built a little bit different than. He has that engine that turns on when he needs to, that step on your throat killer mentality, that tell it like it is type personality. Does that team need this? Do they need another one of this? An offensive, attacking, scoring version of what Draymond is to a certain extent. But I was reading an article surrounding the Philadelphia 76ers about the weird lone season that Jimmy Butler had in Philly. And he had a great series, did Butler, to round out the season against the Raptors. We all know how that season went, but almost took the Raptors down. And because of that, I think a lot of the, lasting impressions were the exact opposite from Miami Jimmy Butler, right? Where Miami Jimmy Butler, in the middle, it was a thing of beauty. By the end, it was nasty. It was like the other way around because he played that one season and then he was out before there was a chance for things to really go awry. But there were some weird moments that season, according to this Philly reporter. He aggressively challenged Brett Brown in a film session just 6 weeks into the tenure. Also said that he bizarrely stopped shooting threes for a large chunk of the season. He had 13 made three-pointers in his last 23 regular season games. Didn't feel like he was an engine of the half-court offense. There were tons of nights where he would just sleepwalk his way into 18 points on transition, ball cuts, foul grifting, despite never really making an effort to attack and pick and roll and in isolations. And there were just some mind-boggling plays where Jimmy Butler wouldn't even look at the rim, is what Philly fans describe it as. There was a game in New Orleans where they kept switching awful defenders onto him, and he just wouldn't even look at the rim. But it does say he always tended to show up in the fourth quarter of close games. Jimmy criticized Brett Brown's play calling in front of the media after a game in Chicago, was caught on the TV broadcast saying that don't work after the Sixers failed to get a stop in the waning moments of a game against the Bulls. You got to put fires out with Jimmy Butler time to time. How's he going to mesh with Steve Kerr? That is a big question. You have to accept Jimmy Butler for who he is. He is not changing. But my favorite line of this article was basically just explaining who Jimmy Butler is in a nutshell. Warriors fans, this is what you have to look forward to. This was Phillies. Don't take it from Miami fans who obviously have seen the worst of Jimmy Butler this season. Take it from the fans that kind of had an indifferent, short experience with Jimmy Butler. He said that's part of the deal with Jimmy. He does all this annoying stuff, but he also is a joy to watch. Hell, he tried to fight his head coach during a game where they were the number one seed in the East in 2022. They came inches from making the NBA Finals a couple months later. It's just part of the Jimmy experience. A little different than the Buddy experience. So how will he fit with the guy that has punches, that throws headlocks out there, and that kicks? Kevon Looney said Guys like that who are dogs, who are alpha males, they respect other people like that. They kind of stay out of each other's way. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. No doubt about that. Draymond Green's response on the trade, he win, I win. That's the fit. Winners win, Green said. He's a winner, perennial all-star, tough as nails. Just effing gets the job done however it needs to get done. It's going to be an exciting experiment, to say the least. I'm indifferent about this trade overall. Do the Warriors get better today? Probably. Probably. That contract extension is a little dicey, to say the least. But you cannot sit here and say this is not going to be fascinating. A subplot of the season also, Jimmy Butler and Buddy Hield, watching those two on the floor together. We've already seen Draymond get into it a little bit with Buddy Hield, verbally at least, for some of his play. We've seen Gary Payton get into it with Buddy Hield. For those of you that say Buddy Hield needs to get the hell out of town, there's one way that he can get his ass on the bench, and that's the arrival of Jimmy Butler. If you're paying Jimmy Butler and bringing him in to be this big a part of the future, and he has an issue with someone's play, I just think that's a subplot to watch to see how those two mesh together. Maybe it's a match made in heaven. Who knows? But the plan is Curry, Butler, Kuminga, and Draymond on the floor for a small ball closing lineup with either Moody, Pods, or Hield as the one of the guards in there. So we'll see. Until he takes the floor and we see what the Warriors look like with him, all we can do is bring you the facts. And the fact of the matter is the Warriors got someone that is outstanding in the playoffs that is also pretty old. Warriors and Lakers Thursday night. The Dubs will be shorthanded again. We will talk to you soon on Locked On Warriors, free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. Peace, everyone.